G'day everyone, welcome to Marc and Cars Porsche Talk, the podcast where we talk about all things Porsche. If you love air-cooled, water-cooled, rear-engine, front-engine or even mid-engine, there'll be something here for you. But most importantly, we'll talk to the people who are passionate about our favourite brand. I'm your host, Marc Sheriff from the YouTube channel Marc and Cars. Thank you for taking the time to support this channel and feel free to share any input, suggestions and ideas through comments, reviews or even boring old email. You'll find me on most social media platforms as Marc and Cars. Anyway, let's get on with the podcast because today we have James from RSR Classics. James, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Marc.
Really appreciate you taking the time to come and have a chat to us about all things Porsche, particularly with your expertise. It'll be interesting to have a different perspective on the podcast compared to previous ones. So I've been really looking forward to this one.
No worries. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, so let's talk about your background. So you're a bit of a old school Melbourne Porsche nut with a lot of experience in the industry. So how did it all happen?
I guess, the typical thing is, I've always enjoyed Porsches from the early days. I mean, as a kid, I always loved having little model cars or, the posters on the wall.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I was always fascinated by them. Mm-hmm. And a couple of family members had some Porsches, not immediate family members, some cousins and so on.
Great.
And then, jumping to pretty much the mid-90s, I got a job in with a Porsche racing team.
Wow, okay. Good one.
So we were racing in the Australian Porsche Cup, which then went on to Nations Cup and then Carrera Cup and a whole bunch of other Porsche things in between. So basically from the mid-90s to late 90s, all up until now, I've just been involved with Porsches as much as I can be, I guess.
Yeah, fantastic. Look, now, fortunately, most listeners of this podcast or viewers of the YouTube version of this podcast are comparable ages to you and I. However, the early 90s was a long time ago. For the younger listeners of the podcast here, tell us what were you playing with in the early 90s?
So when I started in the race team, mid-90s, it was we had a 993 Super Cup car.
Well, okay.
So it was a current model. It was turned into a GT2, just body-wise. The engine was still Super Cup, but then I think once that got damaged, it turned into an RSR basically.
Sure. Is that car still around?
No, that car's been restored and gone back to Europe for
Sure.
for an eye-watering sum of money.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a genuine Super Cup car from the 1994 season.
Yeah.
It was a show car. Mm-hmm. So now it's back over in Europe somewhere where, collectors obviously got that one. We were fortunate enough to play with it. It's somewhere one of those ones back there.
One of the pictures behind you for any listeners, that's where James was pointing to. Tell us, James, with regards to your day-to-day job and how it's related to the Porsche brand and really, I guess, how you and I came into contact with each other. Let's talk about that for a moment, if that's okay.
Yeah, so I guess I've always been buying and selling Porsches for as long as I can remember now. And always classic cars as well before that. So recently I thought I'd step it up and make it a bit more professional. My normal day-to-day job is running another business that's not related to Porsche.
Sure.
But
the one that pays the bills?
Well, the one that's been paying the bills for, up until recently anyway. I'm obviously been doing a lot more Porsche buying and selling. In the last, 5 to 6 years, I've really stepped it up. I thought, during COVID, I thought I'd, get on with it and make it a bit more serious and actually, start the company up, and rather than just selling a few cars, here and there, I'd rather step it up and dive right into it.
Good one.
So I started up RSR Classic, which is a name that I actually had for a long, long time as a registered company name. So I thought I'd put that into action and also have my dealer's license, which is allowing me to do all this.
Yeah, fantastic. And tell me, how's the uptake been with the business? You happy how things are progressing? Because considering it's a pretty recent start for you on that company side of things by the sounds of it.
Well, it's a recent start company-wise, but I've been buying and selling the cars for so long anyway, so it hasn't really made a difference in the buying and selling of Porsches. I guess going a bit more public with what I do, I have a lot more requests for particular cars, for particular Porsches.
Yeah.
I literally get a daily request for, whatever it might be, a GT3 or a turbo of whatever variant. So, it's been good. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of people recently. I've been selling a few cars.
Oh, great. Well, that's an important part of this business, I get the impression.
Yeah. So it's all working out and it's all going very well. Quite surprised, actually. I mean, I used to sort of keep to myself and just buy and sell, a few cars and do all that. But going a bit more public with it, it's really good. It's really good.
It's going to be interesting to see how this goes if we have a conversation in 5 years' time as to whether that was the right or wrong thing to do for you, but I'm sure it's going to be right. Like the demand for the product in general is just, let's face it, it's off the chain at the moment. With COVID, everyone at home, everyone's spending hours on their computer. And I guess, and you're in the fortunate position where you have your contacts, because for listeners globally who aren't familiar, Melbourne, where James is based, is pretty much the, I guess, California of Australia when it comes to Porsche. It is the Porsche hub of Australia. Sure, we have great workshops and technicians and expertise throughout Australia, but Melbourne really is the heartland there of the Porsche brand. And as is evident from the clubs that are based there, the 356 club started there, one of the oldest 356 clubs in the world. And overall with Hamilton's been starting there, and I guess it's just evolved from there really, and the expertise in the town that's evolved from that, I guess, initial import of that very first couple of cars.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously the headquarters of Porsche Cars Australia is here in Melbourne. I guess it's always been the traditional home of Porsche in Australia, I guess. But there's certainly clubs here and a lot of activity around Porsches, and I guess Porsche Club racing started here in Victoria, and it's always been enjoyable. Always been enjoyable. Good people here. And a good scene, a really good scene.
And tell me, on that club issue, do you remember the Porsche Club of Victoria?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Yeah, good. And I know through your various contacts now, common social media links, which, you get shown whenever you're looking at a social media outcome, you're very, you're relatively up to speed and in contact with, I guess, the non-club members, I guess, would be a good way to describe what's going on in the Porsche community around Australia, through that whole R group style of Porsche fan where just a bunch of guys get together and go for a drive on a weekend. And then you've got the traditional Porsche club of wherever you live around the world. But the competition part of it really outside of, CAMS, which is the Australian Motor Racing Association, outside of that, Porsche Club really is your ticket to going track racing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the strongest, I guess it's the strongest group of people racing Porsches. I prefer to only do the Porsche Club of Victoria days.
Sure.
Or if other people do organise a track day, there are some forums that organise track days as well. If it's Porsche specific, I will do it. I don't particularly like sharing the track with other brands.
HSVs?
No, not at all.
Sure.
They're good cars, but I prefer just to be around Porsches. The reason is everybody respects each other's car. Everybody knows what it takes to go racing when you're in a Porsche.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
So, sometimes when you're mixing different makes, I'm not saying it's bad, but things can go wrong sometimes.
Sure. And when things go wrong for both parties, it's generally pretty bad on a track because insurance is a bit of a myth on the track as a general rule.
Yeah, it's virtually non-existent unless you're professionally racing, but then that's ultra expensive.
Of course. And with regards to the on-track racing, I know you have a fairly storied history of having to get behind the wheel yourself.
Yep.
Behind various cars, whether they're road cars on the track, road cars are being converted to track cars, or even track-specific cars with the Carrera Cup style cars.
Yep.
Am I correct in this? Did I see that you've got a Carrera Cup car for sale at the moment?
Yes, I do. Yeah, it's the Peter Fitzgerald 2003 996 Cup car.
That's the Enyo one, isn't it?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, great graphic on that car. Very stands out. Like I can't believe a South African hasn't bought it purely because of the colourway.
So I restored that car last year to its original livery. I've driven it at Winton, which is a racetrack here in Victoria. So brilliant car, very well set up, excellent mechanicals. It's had rebuilds, it's got everything. I mean, that car is just beautiful.
Yeah, I did see the asking price on the car, which I'll put a link in the YouTube video and also in the podcast below for that car's sale. But I got to be honest here, unless you actually stole that car and the owner doesn't know, I can't even see how you're making a profit out of the work that's gone into that car to sell it for what you're asking for.
Yeah, look, a lot of work has gone into it. Some, 996 Cup cars are valuable, but
mate, every Cup car is valuable.
Every Cup car is valuable, but at the end of the day, you can only, the market dictates what that price is going to be, the selling price. So, I've listed it at a very reasonable price, and
I agree, 100%. It is incredibly reasonable. Just out of curiosity, I know what it's like here in Western Australia with regards to the Porsche Club driving and track days. There seems to be a pretty big uptake on superseded Cup cars turning up at these events now. Are you finding that in Victoria as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We have huge fields at Porsche track days, Porsche Club track days. Some days there may be 15 to 20 Cup cars. Sometimes at Phillip Island, the huge Grand Prix circuit, you might find, 15 Cup cars spread in two categories. It's just crazy.
It must be absolutely daunting to turn up in your bog stock Tiptronic Boxster on that track day to get on the track. You know what I mean? I'm not in that position myself because, I drive that. It's got, by the way, listeners, I'm pointing to my 356 behind me that is pumps out all of about 60 horsepower. So, it's not a track car, and I wouldn't take it on the track because I love the car too much. But that aside, for people that turn up these track days, you drive there, especially to Phillip Island. I'm a Victorian, so I know what the trip to Phillip Island's like. You get there and you see all these cars on trailers, you must be going, oh my goodness, what am I turning up here for?
No, yeah, it can be daunting only if there's one or two Cup cars because then they'll mix the field.
Sure.
But when there's so many...
they put them out on their own. Yeah, I hadn't considered that. Yeah, sure.
I mean, there's no way you're going to have a Boxster or a 944 or something like that mixing it with a Cup car. It may happen on the odd occasion. And all the Cup car drivers are certainly up to speed with, track etiquette. So there's never really an issue. I've never seen an issue between a Cup car and a
slow car,
road going, road registered car.
Yeah, sure.
Not saying that it can't happen, but
of course it can.
It's generally they're not.
While we're on that Cup car and track discussion here, you mentioned earlier that the 993 was put into the 993 Super Cup car was put into GT2 style livery, right? Which for anyone that's ever interested in listening to me talk will know that 993 GT2 is pretty much, the lotto car for me. Yeah. Is a 993 Super Cup car with the engine, drivetrain, suspension, everything, is it a better car or a better track car than the GT2 road going car? Do you have experience in? Like, I understand there is one or two in Melbourne, isn't there? The GT2 road going cars.
Yeah, there is. It's a long time ago, but going back to the 99 Super Cup back in the late 90s, essentially, well, the Super Cup's non-turbo.
Yes.
The car we had was basically essentially it was an RSR engine in a Super Cup car, but it had GT2 flares on it. So it was mixed up a bit, but it wasn't that difficult to restore, I guess, when the people that own it.
But that RSR motor, even though naturally aspirated, I can imagine as a race-only car would punch out some significant numbers in comparison to the road-going turbo car, would it not?
It would, yeah, definitely. I think the road-going car had 450 horsepower.
Big number for back then.
Probably got that wrong or something like that, but the RSR would have had 400 or something, but would obviously be
250 kilos lighter.
Yeah, and a lot more lively on the racetrack, of course.
I can imagine. Yeah, sure.
I do remember being a passenger in that car and just hearing that engine. It sounded like you were grinding gravel. Like the howl.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
The howl from that RSR engine was it's just unforgettable.
I've been fortunate enough to be in a lot of early 90s rally cars just through a previous job I did. And aside from the motor, like early 90s was end of Group B, start of grown-ups World Rally Championship, WRC. And I specifically, being in all the reconnaissance vehicles here in Rally Australia in Western Australia, when I was over here working for a specific company, I had to calibrate the rally computers and things like that for all the international teams. So they're all sealed for FIA, all that sort of thing. It was actually my job at the time. So it's pretty interesting. I got to see a lot of pretty exciting cars, talking Escorts, we're talking early Subaru STIs, Evos, all that sort of thing. Anyway, the motor, mate, you could hardly hear it because of the drive of the noise of the gearbox, all those straight cut gears and everything in it. Yeah. Now, you needed ear protection just for the gearbox, let alone you could hardly hear the engine, that was pumping out behind you. It was incredible how loud the gearboxes were in those cars. Was that the case for those early Super Cup cars?
No, the engine ruled the world.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. I hope one day to have the opportunity to have a look at it.
Yeah, look, nowadays those cars are worth significant money, and
$1 zillion. Yeah, I get it.
They're all back in museums and collections and so on, and you wouldn't see many people racing.
Yeah, Ferry would roll over in his grave if he knew that, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Tell me, with the job you do day to day nowadays with the RSR Classic work, how have you found aside from the obvious dollar asking price in the mainstream advertising forums for cars for sale, how's the whole COVID tax thing going for Porsche? Like, if you're a 996 owner, it's been pretty sympathetic. Let's face it, pre-COVID, it was most 996s topped out at the better part of 60, 70,000. But to see a 996 over 100 isn't out of the question nowadays in asking price.
No, it's not. But like anything, asking is not what some people are paying.
I 100% agree. Like when I look at these prices, I'm trying to explain to my wife, we need one of these. She says, look at the price.
It's always been an interesting thing. People saying that COVID has spiked the price of cars. Well, I'm sure it has to a certain point. What percentage of that is COVID, the price increase, and what percentage is just the normal increase because the cars were going up anyway, and they have been.
Sure. Yep.
I guess it was 2013, 14 when they started rising, and then in particular 2015 where they just shot up like crazy, and kind of haven't slowed down. Look, COVID's given people time to search for cars that they've always wanted. I guess the other point is that people can't travel. People that have the means to spend that sort of money on a second, third car, or if they're in a collection, 4th, 5th, 10th, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
If they're not traveling, they've got, money to spend, I guess. Now, some people say to me, will it crash? Well, the good cars won't, and they kind of never do, because the good cars go into collections and they go into I guess, in people's hands that don't really need to sell them if there is a slump in the market. So
sure. Yep.
Good cars have gone, they might be moving around, shifting from collection to collection, but they're always going to maintain their price, I believe, anyway. I haven't seen it go backwards in a long, long time, and I've never seen the Porsche market go backwards.
I'm one of those tragics that would go into car sales daily, and I'm grown up enough to appreciate that car sales is an asking price. I'm not delusional enough to think that is a selling price. Okay. However, there seems to be an increasing number of people that appear either A, to be unwilling to negotiate on their asking price, or B, enough buyers that are willing to negotiate on the asking price. Like, you see cars come and go very quickly, particularly late air-cooled cars. They seem to turn over quite quickly in that forum, right? Because I've no doubt you look at these forums daily as well, this being your job.
Of course.
And whether it's car sales or Gumtree or just for international listeners, we're talking about the sales platforms here in Australia. How have you found the impact of the sight unseen web-based auction sites, like Collecting Cars, Trading Garage, Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, etc., on a global scale, and what they're doing out there? Like they're taking the better part of 250 photos in. And look, I'll be honest with you, if I was in the market for a car, I'd probably see more on these sites through the number of photos taken than I would actually look at if I went and looked at a car, if I didn't get a PPI.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, things like Collecting Cars and those auction sites, they have a place in the market for sure. But at the end of the day, it's still buyer beware. I've had experience with selling a car on those platform sites.
Okay.
It didn't sell ultimately because it didn't
reserve.
It didn't hit reserve, of course.
Sure.
But what I find is that they photograph the car to the nth degree, and they will show you more of the bad bits than the good bits.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. Yep.
So
I'll expand on this. I'm going to expand on this topic once you've said what you've said, because I've got a bit of experience here myself. Yep.
So I purposely put one of my cars up for sale on one of the auction platforms just to see how the process was. And of course, I didn't just do it for fun. I wanted to sell the car.
Sure.
Just going through the process and they are quite upfront with as much detail as you can provide. It has to be honest. And the photos don't lie. At the end of the day, the photos show that the photographers that photograph the cars are car guys. They know what they're looking for.
They know what to look for, sure. Yep.
And I wouldn't have a problem buying from those websites. I don't particularly have a problem with them.
Yep.
I don't have a problem selling on those websites either. For me, a sale is a sale, whether I sell it through an auction platform or classified,
sure. Mm-hmm.
An online classified, or however it's done. I think there's a place in the market for them. They won't work for everyone. Some people will be unrealistic with their asking price, but these auction platforms may just want to put the listing up anyway, just so they've got stock. That's all good and well. But yeah, you have to be realistic when you're listing with one of these auction sites.
Yeah, look, 100% agree. And look, ultimately, there's very few occasions where, the excitement of the auction site is going to exceed the expected offer of the real value of the car from a consumer. Let's face it, if you've got a budget of X dollars, let's say $120,000 or whatever your budget is, and the car gets to 125, once it gets to 130, you're probably going to be backpedaling, going, that was actually my budget. I went to 125. I shouldn't have, but that's what it is. And I do think it's territory specific. And the reason I bring that up is I'm comparing it to real estate, because I'm considering these products as an appreciable asset. They've gone past that appreciation curve and they're now on the back upswing, which is what we traditionally associate with residential real estate in relevant suburbs. And here in Western Australia, in Perth in particular, auctions have never really had that much of an uptake. Houses don't really sell that much by auction. So I'd be pretty curious. And like traditionally, we don't see a lot of West Australian-based cars on the car auction websites. Like, again, like the car sales, completely tragic, me looking at everything that's out there, you know, thinking no one else has seen it but me, but the reality is 8,000 other people did, right? You know, so, yeah, I'm going to nick this. No one's going to see, you know.
No, it doesn't work that way.
I realise that, yeah. And but all that aside, you know, you live in hope. And the fact is, it's interesting how different territories relate to these different forums, you know, like the POMs, sorry, English listeners, we're referring to you. nuts for an auction site. You know, if you live in Southern California, mate, you'd never buy anything but by auction, you know. So there's interesting parts of the world where this forum actually exists, and, you know, you coming from the industry you do and doing what you do to generate your income. I'm just totally curious as to how people manage this, and really the expectation of when someone comes to you and says, James, I want to sell my, I don't know, 991 GT3 manual. I see this much got one in a, I don't know, in Cape Town on collecting cars, and you go, oh God, how am I going to get that here in Australia, or whatever the number is, you know what I mean? So I can just imagine each day you must be involved, or someone calls you and says, yeah, I want a 991 GT3 because I saw on Bring a Trailer they sold one for $86,000 American, which is $120,000 Australian. Why can't I buy one in Australia for $120,000? I imagine you have those conversations fairly regularly.
Yeah, sometimes, but obviously it has to be specific to the Australian market. For us here in Australia, we've got a crazy luxury car tax. Our cars are way more expensive than some of the other countries.
But we do sell them for more as well.
Yeah, we do. But you can't compare different markets. I mean, you know, you can't bring a GT3 from the US into Australia and put it on the road. Our laws won't allow it, as you probably know that.
Well aware, yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, so you can't compare it. So that's the simple. It's very simple to put an end to that conversation where you just say you can't compare it. You simply can't. With
your job in having to manage that mentality of luxury car tax, right? Which I just want to quickly explain it for listeners or viewers from around the world for this particular podcast or YouTube video. And you'll correct me on these numbers. It's something like 30% for values over $66,000 or something. Is that the number? Like, so
when you buy
it's an exorbitant amount of money.
It is a huge amount. I don't know the exact number because I don't really deal with new cars, and I don't really import any cars that are going to hit that luxury car tax.
Yeah,
it's very hard to import cars nowadays, I guess. There's lots of costs involved, particularly for Australia. Other countries might be a lot easier. But yes, luxury car tax is a huge amount of the purchase price when you're buying a new car over $60,000, $70,000, whatever it might be.
Sure, and it's exponential once you get that.
Right.
Like, it's hence the reason why there's about 2 Bugatti Veyrons in Australia.
Yeah, well, they'll never see the road either. They're just for collectors.
But on that point, I just want to point out, because I know the relevant people in government are listening to this particular podcast. Not. There's no can you believe there's no luxury boat tax?
No, I don't know that.
There's not. You know, like, if you're going to buy anything that costs a lot of money from overseas, you'd think if they're going to sing us on cars, they'd hit us on boats, because Australia has a big coastline and there are a lot of boats in Australia. And I spoke to someone the other day who bought a new boat out of Europe, flew there, drove it back, registered here locally. It was multi-million dollars, right?
And there was no tax.
No luxury tax. Can you please pay your GST? Yes, I will pay that $230,000, but no, I won't have to pay that $490,000 of tax.
Maybe we should turn some GT3s into boats.
I'm sure you've no doubt seen memes and stuff on social media of Porsche-shaped boats with Porsche motors in them and things like that. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so that LCT, or the luxury car tax, it's a killer.
Yeah, it's a killer. I think the new GT3 is about 450,000 now in Australia.
Compared to the 160 in the US? Yeah, okay.
Base model, and then it'll get to 500,000 before you throw a couple of options at it.
Mate, look at the asking price of speedsters in Australia at the moment.
Yeah.
991.2 speedsters I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
You know, they're $750,000. Now, I initially thought, how much over asking are these guys asking? But after talking to the local Porsche dealership here in Perth, that's not that far from, it's pretty close to what they actually paid for the cars because of the luxury car tax and the associated options that go with these cars.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the tax is just, it's exorbitant. It's really exorbitant. But luckily, I don't really deal with that.
And let's face it, the important thing is if we actually do crash our cars, an ambulance will turn up and take us to a hospital.
Well, maybe that's what we're paying for.
Well, there's got to be something. I'm holding hope here, you know.
We're paying for our roads somewhere.
We're definitely paying for something.
Yeah,
it cracks me up.
I don't really deal with new cars. You know, it's all the classic cars for me, and
sure,
GT3s, and you know, pretty much up to a 997 is pretty much what I deal with.
Look, I'll be honest with you. In this podcast right now, I was a little bit selfish in using this as a bit of a topic because I want to talk about the car that got away, the car you've looked back on and said, geez, I wish I'd have bought that car.
Where do I start?
But you must have one or two that you think, yeah, what was I thinking? Was I drunk?
So there's two of them.
So there is. Yeah, I knew there would be.
There's way more than two, but two of them
these are the two biggies, for you and your heart and soul.
The first one was a 75 MFI Carrera. And
interesting. Yeah, okay.
It was at an auction, and it didn't hit reserve. It didn't meet reserve, but I was the highest bidder.
How long ago was this?
2 years ago, I think.
Okay. So yeah, sure, not long ago. Yep.
Yeah. So I was the highest bidder, but it didn't hit reserve. They come back to me and tried to get more money out of me, of course, and we ended up agreeing at a few $1,000s more. Still a six-figure sum. But the car was worth probably multiple six-figure sums.
Sure.
And I don't know why. I specifically remember I was in a 911 driving wherever I was in the morning, and the auctioneer, the auction house is talking to me, and I said, "No, I'll give it a miss." Anyway, another guy here in Melbourne did buy the car. A week later, went to auction again. I think he paid quite a bit more for it, but it is here in Melbourne anyway. So that one, yes. Was probably
Is it the one that got away for you because of profit or because that was a car that you would have loved to have?
No, I would have loved to have.
Sure. These are two very different things, so I'm curious, that's all.
Yeah, no. The ones that got away are these two that I'm talking about. Well, the other one I haven't spoken about yet, but it's definitely the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
If they get away for profit, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you may make it up at some point in the future. That's how I was just curious. That's all about.
No. This is something.
How much of a car salesman you'd become? That's all I was curious about.
Yeah. No. I'm not really that much of a car salesman.
I can hear that from our conversation.
I'm probably more of a collector with a car dealer's license.
Yeah, I get that.
To be totally honest, because I like buying these cars, owning them for a while, and then selling them. And
not paying stamp duty. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Well, you don't really pay stamp duty on the classics anyway, because you with club registration, you don't pay stamp duty at all.
Okay, well, don't move to Western Australia.
Okay, no, I'm staying here. So anyway, the 75 Carrera MFI, that's something I would have loved to have had in my garage for a long time. It was white.
Yeah, good one. Yep.
White. The other one was a car that I actually had a little bit of an association with. It was a 996.1 GT3 Club Sport.
Good car.
So it was one of the Nations Cup cars I used to play with, or was associated with, or I was around. That one was probably different. That one, the person selling that car kind of dudded me on it because we agreed to, a price and we agreed everything. As I was driving there to pick it up, he turns around and sells it to someone else.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's no good.
So this was not from the owner of the car. It was from a person that had it at the workshop. So it was the guy in charge of the sale that ran the workshop.
Yep.
So a customer's car was being sold by the workshop. Anyway, haven't heard good things about that person, but hey.
What goes around comes around, my friend.
Oh, it will.
It will. You clearly haven't forgotten. I want to tell you about the one that got away from me.
Yeah.
Back in about, I think it was 93, I bought a 914.
Oh, yeah.
Cheap car back then. And so I saw it, I read about it it might have been the PCA magazine. This is pre-internet purchasing, right? And rang the guy, got on a plane, went to California.
Oh, okay, just around the corner.
Yeah, just pretty close to Perth, opposite side of the globe.
Yep.
So anyway, I get there and textbook redneck.
Yeah, okay.
Right. He says, how much money did you bring? And I'm thinking, I'm about to get mugged because it's all cash, This is the way things happened back then, I had a pocket full of cash, of US dollars, And I'm happy to tell the listeners I paid $2,400 for this car, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, I brought $2,000. He goes, I've got another car I want to sell. You sure you're 914, you're happy at 2,400 we negotiated? Where are you going to get the other 400 from? I said, look, in all honesty, I was hoping to negotiate you down to $2,000. And he goes, yeah, okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. But can you get more money? I said, maybe. I didn't have more money, but I just wanted to see where this was going, as you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, what do you got? He says, come out the back and have a look. There's a 904 Carrera GTS, Carrera 4-cam car.
Okay.
I said, okay. Yeah. I knew what I was dealing with. I've been a lifelong nutcase for 356s, particularly Carreras. I know what a Carrera 4-cam motor is. Mm. And I said, how much do you want for this? He says, I was hoping for 21,000, but 19 would get the deal done today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong, this is early 90s. So Carrera motor cars weren't what they're worth today. I 100% appreciate that. And $19,000 would have been at the bottom end of a Carrera 904 for that time.
Still pretty hard when you've only got $2,000 in your pocket.
Definitely is. And I'm thinking to myself, who's awake in Perth that could give me the money? So, and with the exchange rate, that would have been about 25,000 Australian.
Yeah.
It was the middle of the night in Perth. In all honesty, I had about $18,000 in the bank.
Okay.
So I could have maybe made something happen. I'm not paying that much money for that old pile of rubbish, mentality in my head. And, I don't even know when the motor was last rebuilt. And I know that motor rebuild is going to cost me a fortune, probably $3,000 back then,
Yeah, no, look, it's all relative to the time.
Of course it is, but it's, when I think back now. But in all reality, at that age I was at that time of my life, early 20s.
Yeah.
I would have sold it 3 years later, doubled my money and thought I was a millionaire.
Yeah, that's right.
I wouldn't have kept the car to today's, Look, I don't even know when the last 904 was actually sold globally. It's probably a $1.5 million car nowadays, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it could be.
It's
rare.
they just never come
What
up.
do you do? I mean, there's always stories like that. I mean, cars that I've sold, even in recent times, even if I just held onto it for a year or two more, they would have been worth significantly more.
Well, particularly in these current years where the values are just skyrocketing every 5 minutes. Anytime someone lists a car for sale, they're asking 10% more than the last one that listed, aren't they?
Yeah, it's an interesting market. So, going back to that, it's the one that got away. I mean, I could go.
The 904 is the car for me. I think back on and I'm sure there are listeners and viewers to this podcast or YouTube video that are going to say 904, that's an old pile of rubbish, air-cooled, unreliable car. But it was designed by Bootsy, Ferry's son. It's the first car he designed. And in my opinion, one of the prettiest Porsches that have ever been built. Don't get me wrong. I understand the silhouette of a 911 is the brand, but when I think early Porsches, I think 904 is a good-looking car, So it's all horses for courses. And, since that time, I've only ever seen one in real life since, So, and I'm talking, this is 93, 94 type era. That's a long time ago now. We're coming up 30 years past that point, and I haven't seen another one since then. I saw another one later that year in Australia, but since then I haven't seen one, So just seeing 904s in real life is a privilege almost because how few got built.
Yeah. No, for me it was the 75 Carrera MFI. I mean,
nice car, beautiful car.
It would have been good.
James, what's on your Porsche wish list? You seem to have had the opportunity to touch and feel and play with a lot of Porsche cars. Is there something that's an itch you're looking forward to scratching at some point? You're thinking, one day I'll get the opportunity. Where's that sit for you in the brand? I'm just curious, because you've got such broad experience with the brand.
So I really like my race cars, my factory built race cars.
Sure.
If I could ever own a 935, that would be nice.
Did I see one posted on your Instagram or something along those lines in the recent months?
Yeah, I'm selling one at the moment.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm selling one at the moment. It's not a factory built 935. It's an IMSA spec 935 that was built in California in the early 80s.
Sure.
Car came to Australia, has been sitting around a long time. Currently being put back together. I was just actually doing some homework on that one today. So, the car will get put back together to a certain point. We'll probably be selling it as a project or as a complete car that's all been put back together.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
It's quite obviously not my car.
Uh-huh.
And
hence it being for sale. Yes, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I could own it, I would. But right now, I don't think I can.
Yeah, sure. And is this one of those? Is it a full Moby Dick, big long tail type build?
It's a K3 935.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But it does have the single turbo 3.5 litre flat fan engine. So the engine is a genuine 935 engine.
Yeah, okay, fantastic.
Upside down gearbox. But anyway, that would be my wish list. If I could ever own a 935, that would be nice. But in reality, I guess a normal road going 911, I don't know, just a normal 911, one old one new one, that would probably satisfy me.
Yeah, okay, sure.
I've been fortunate enough to own quite a few 911s. They're all good, they're all good as they are, but to try and knuckle it down to one particular car is kind of hard. But
sure. Yeah, look, realistically, lotto numbers align. I've got that whole 3-car garage thing going on where I'd love a nice daily PDK 992 or something like that, I guess, and then I'd be hard pressed to go past the 356. I like early 911s, I really do, especially the 2 litre and the 2 litre, the 2.2 and the 2.4, that high revvy low torque motors. I really like driving those cars. And than a track car of some sort. I've got very limited experience in race cars. I've been on track maybe 4 times in my life,
Yeah.
and I know my lack of ability. I'm very conscious of it on the track. So I think a lower powered track car would probably suit me better than something that is, a Cup car or something like that. So, but that's just me because of my lack of experience and ability. I'm sure if after 3 months on the track in a lower powered car, I'm going, I've got to go and buy a Cup car, an X-Cup car.
You'd be surprised that a 996 Cup car is a good starting point.
That's interesting, yeah.
They're not overly powered. And they're so close to a road-going GT3 or GT3 RS of the same era, 996.
Yeah.
Once you start getting into 997s and then 991s, it's a different story. You really need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's not me.
But a 996 Cup car is a really good starting point if you were going to start in the Cup car game, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's pretty interesting because, look,
doesn't really
at any moment in time, there's probably 20 for sale around the world.
Yeah.
And they all have various number of hours on gearbox and motor and drive shafts and all that stuff that I actually don't know much about, but it seems to be important because they all list those details when they sell them, so there must be some costs associated with replacing or repairing those things, as no doubt you'd be aware with the Enyo car or the Fitzgerald car that you recently restored.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in Australia, there's only one 996 Cup car for sale.
Mm-hmm.
My one.
Yeah, okay.
So there's not that many around, particularly in Australia.
So basically what this whole podcast is about is you convinced me I need that 996 Cup car.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, okay.
I
need this garage next to the 356. Got it. Yeah, okay.
Make a good contrast between colours.
Yeah, does it come with a trailer? Yeah, okay.
No, I need my trailer.
Yeah, okay.
The Cup car, when it comes to hours and things like that, particularly the 996, that Metzger engine can just go literally forever. I mean, there's so many people that say, it's only a 40-hour engine. Yeah, okay, it may have been a 40-hour engine in Carrera Cup because you were chasing every last single
tenth of a second. Hour. Yeah, sure.
But when you're doing club days and things like that, I mean, those
it's engines, probably a 5-year engine, isn't it?
Oh, easily. I mean, those engines have been known to go for 200 hours.
Yeah, sure.
No problem. So, they're a very robust engine and
that's interesting to know. Yeah, okay. Look, it makes the car sound more affordable when you talk about it like that.
Yeah, I've never had an engine rebuild in the Cup cars I've owned because they've always been good cars and they've always got more life left in them.
Mm-hmm.
The 996 is a really good one.
Okay.
Someone that's not chasing ultimate lap times and wants the latest and greatest technology, the 996 is good. It's a good analog feel. Still got a manual gearbox, of course. It's the last manual gearbox Porsche race car they made, or 911 race car they made.
Yeah, sure. Look, a future guest of the podcast is a local West Australian gentleman who has realistically too many Porsches. He's got 3 356s. He's got a 3 or 4 911s, a 911 race car, and a 996 Cup car that he bought out of Melbourne. Actually, only a couple of years ago. I'll be honest with you. At that time, I thought I was in the right position to do so and go and buy it, but he beat me to the transaction. And
I think I'd sold it to him.
White car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you know who I'm talking about then, right?
Yeah.
And
I sold him that car.
Yeah, good. And it was, to me, it seemed incredibly affordable, so I thought I should have bought that car, but he was on it straight away. He was on his boat down at Rottnest off the coast of WA here, drove the boat straight in, got on a plane and made the whole deal happen, obviously.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I bought that car. That was a really good car. I raced that car once.
I don't think it's done a lap since.
Yeah. It's a really good car. That was a 2004 996 Cup car. That was the Paul Freestone car.
I will talk this owner into selling me that car if I'm going to buy a Cup car.
I've already asked.
No. Look, I've got a different relationship than you do.
Okay. I've already asked him. I bought that car for its spare parts.
Ah, really?
So that car came with a big package of spare parts. So I kept all the spare parts and everything. Mm-hmm. And then I sold that car to that person.
Yeah, I don't think it's done a lap since.
Yeah, so I was the last one to probably race that car.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good car?
Yeah, it was a good car. Had good history, good paperwork.
Oh, look, I've no doubt it's outside my ability, but it's the sort of car that I think would probably suit me. I just got to talk him into selling to me. You know, he's just one of these guys that never sells his cars. You know,
That's right. He doesn't.
Yeah. I'm talking he's just recently bought a Radical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's knocking 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds off his best lap times in his 911 in a Radical, which you'd expect. Obviously, it's not a road car; it's a purely built race car, so you'd anticipate that being the case. But all that aside, the Lotto car, money no object, still 935 or something else.
Well, I mean, if Lotto car for me would probably a Carrera GT.
Yeah, okay. Common answer. Nice. Yeah, but look, not to diminish your enthusiasm for it. Sorry, I didn't mean that when I said common answer.
Yeah, no. I mean, again, but if I was going back into a race car again, it might be like a 962, ex-Le Mans car or something like that. I really like my race cars.
Yeah, there's I did a video on a New Zealand-based 962 about 18 months ago that I understand has recently come to Melbourne.
Okay. Yeah, there is a new one that's arrived.
And that's, like cost of restoration, that car was not an issue with regards to the previous owner. So if you're going to buy a 962, that's probably a good one. I actually wasn't aware it was on the market for sale until I heard the transaction had gone through. So it was one of those, James Pappas type deals that you hear about after the event.
Yeah, a lot of my cars no one hears about.
Yeah. This is one of those. And, so that car was in Auckland and the owner's got an amazing collection. He's got 2.7 RS, 76 turbo.
Yep.
Carrera 356.
Yeah.
Speedster, bench seat 356A in mice and blue. So, he's got some fantastic motor cars, and he had the 962, which did the rounds in 1 year. Like he did the whole Classic Le Mans, Ren Sport, Classic Spa, Classic Adelaide, and one other event. He said there's 5 events in that 1 year he did. So flew it all around the world to do these events in that 1 year, and it had the whole car rebuilt and built for those 5 events, basically.
Yeah, no, they're an amazing car. I mean, I can't imagine the maintenance cost on them, but there is one for sale.
If you are imagining, it's probably not for you.
Yeah. Well, you did say Lotto.
I did.
There is one for sale that's come up for sale out of Japan. I think it was a Japanese original car, as in from a team in Japan.
Yeah.
I think it's only about 1.4 million euro.
I love how you say only 1.4 million euro.
Well, it seems a bit reasonable in the 962 sort of space.
Look, in all reality, I'd have to agree. It's, sub 2 million euro for a 962. If it's pretty good, seems to be the money. You know what I mean?
There's 935 selling for 4.3 million US. So and then even the replicas or not replicas, the IMSA spec 935s, they're selling for about $1 million.
It's a lot of dough, isn't it?
It is a lot of dough, but you can't go back in time and rate. You
can't build a new one.
Well, you can build a new one, but it's never gonna be the same as those ones back then.
No, you're right. Well, so look, even you look at some of the values of some of the IROC cars from back in that era, it's just amazing,
Yeah, a guy that I know actually owns one and it's currently for sale.
Really?
Yeah, a guy I know in California that owns one of them. I think the asking price was 2.2 million US or something like that.
Yeah, he'll probably settle for 2 million and get away with it and live happily ever after.
So, I mean, a lot of the collectors that I know, some of them have these cars. I'm fortunate enough to know quite a few collectors here in Australia that some of them do have some really good toys. and I get to see them, and it's quite nice. And
just seeing them is enough for me. Like doing what I do, like I don't really have the capacity to ever generate the income that's going to be necessary for me to own the cars that I dream of. But I love living those dreams through other people and things like that, and just these conversations like tonight, or today that we're having with regards to, lotto cars, dream cars, the one that got away, et cetera. For me, I find it very rewarding,
Yeah. Look, I guess the one that got away was because I said no to it. That's why it's so annoying, because everything was lined up and I just said no.
Yeah, I get it. I get it 100%. With regards to any road trips or future events, have you got anything in the pipeline coming up post-COVID?
Apart from driving literally a day or two to pick up a special car, no.
Okay.
And I won't be saying what that is.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's always.
Do you get the opportunity to do this type of thing very often? Like, do you ever say to the wife, we're going away for 2 days, let's just drive up somewhere and drive back in a different way? Do you do that type of thing?
Not that often, to be honest. I do like my Cars and Coffee events.
Yeah, sure.
And there's quite a few of those here in Melbourne.
Yep.
But as far as doing long drives, it's probably something I'd like to do. But, having a young family it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, sure. I empathise. Tell me about your situation. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children?
Two lovely daughters.
Fantastic, yep.
A 2-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
So, and of course my wife. And but yeah, so it's always difficult to try and do, weekends away.
I 100%.
Particularly in a Porsche.
Mm-hmm. Well, put it this way, your days are numbered that they can fit in the back of one, so you're going to have to start maximising it in the near future. Yeah, that's right. I've got an 8-year-old daughter, and no one's ever accused me of being tall, so my daughter's not either. So, but I know our days are numbered with the road trips and the 356 just purely because of space, and luggage and those sorts of things.
I'd probably do more track days.
Okay.
In the Cup car.
Get it. Yeah.
So for me, it's not
far
really
away. Are you far away from the track where you live versus where the track is?
Well, Sandown is in metropolitan Melbourne, so Sandown very close. Winton is 2.5 hours.
If you've got a muffler, I imagine. Yeah. Okay.
On the trailer. It's always on the trailer. I don't think I've ever driven a car to a racetrack, ever. I've always trailered a car.
Yeah, okay.
And then Phillip Island's another, 2 hours away. So
yeah.
They're all reasonable. It's all doable in one day.
Sure.
And I've certainly been doing that for a long time. And I quite enjoy my track days.
Are you feeling as a parent, and I'm talking to you as a parent, not as a Porsche enthusiast, I don't feel that great about having a whole day doing something self-absorbed as me driving a car. Like I tend to try and my driving nowadays tends to fit around, if I've got an hour here, 2 hours there, or we're all going. How are you going on that path? There's in your evolution as a father.
I only do limited, track days. I only probably do maybe 2 or 3.
Oh, really? Okay. Good. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Whereas
good on you.
Years gone by, I probably, may have done 8 or 10.
Sure. Yeah.
So when you're
talking about per year here, by the way, for listeners, he's not saying per week.
Per week. No, per year. So it's limited how much track time I can get nowadays anyway.
Yes, I understand.
So when I do a day every 3 months, let's say, I mean, that's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
And
it'd take you half the day to get your eye in again, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's true. I'm, what is it? The older I get, the slower I am.
Yeah. But the better I was. Yeah. Okay.
The older I get, the faster I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, it's not really an issue. I don't do the weekends away. I've never really done those.
Yeah. Okay.
Getting a group of guys together and going up the mountains or whatever it is in a Porsche or something like that.
Yeah.
I prefer to do track days and
okay. Each their own, 100% understand. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Cars and Coffee should come over for them.
Well, I will be over there in late November for the F1. So,
okay.
We'll definitely have to catch a coffee or something like that. And my social commitments for that 3 or 4 days I'll be over there seem to be growing significantly with each podcast.
Yeah, they will.
Just because a lot of the podcasts people I'm interviewing here who are Australian seem to be very much Melbourne based.
Yeah. There's a lot of
I do have, interestingly, I'm actually, even though this won't work in the publication of the podcast, but for listeners, I'm actually interviewing another James tomorrow. Which is James from Auto Amateur in Minneapolis in the USA.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So he's, he and I have been in touch, and it should be some good fun, I'm pretty curious as to how you feel about where the brand is going with regards to up and coming owners of Porsches, enthusiasts of the brand. Like, look, I'll be straight up with you. I'm 50 years old, right? I can't imagine you're more than 10 years younger than me, right? So, as a result, you're not that far away from where I am in life. What's going on with the 20-year-olds? Are they aspiring to own Porsches, do you think? And how's that going to affect the value or the desirability of Porsche cars in another, say, 30 years' time, 40 years' time?
Look,
have you ever thought about this? Like, I do, because I'm a 356 owner and I'm the youngest 356 owner I know,
Well, I don't think it's too different to when, let's say, we were in our 20s. I mean, we wanted to own, well, particularly myself, and I'm sure
911, right?
Yeah, a 911.
Sure.
And I knew the day would come, and luckily enough, it wasn't that far after that. I could afford one, but.
And it's a good brand for that, because the 911 is an evolution car as opposed to a revolution car. So whether you own a 1963 911 or you own a 2021 911, it is still a 911, right? But if you're a Ferrari enthusiast, the gap between what the cars were back then and what they are now and how they look is significantly different, right?
Yeah. Look, I think it's for the young guys that guys in their teenage years, early 20s that want to own a 911, I'm sure the time will come. It will be no different to when we were in our teenage years or in our 20s. Sure, we couldn't just go out and buy a new one straight away, but the time will come for them as well. I don't see that Porsche will become unobtainable. I don't see that at all, because there's so many new models coming out. Sure, some of the older ones, will keep increasing in value, but there's going to be plenty 991s around, 992s, and then whatever else comes on.
Well, it's interesting you bring up 991s, because statistically, I was speaking to, in a previous podcast, Lee Sibley, who from the UK, total 911 guy, and he brought up the point that 1 in 5 911s that have ever been built are a 991.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of 991 911s, so that in itself, 20% of production, global production ever for the whole brand in 911 is a 991. So that in itself, I can imagine in 20 years' time when guys are in their 40s, because let's face it, midlife crisis. Yeah, I do want that car. I had one. I dreamed of it when I was 20, right?
Yeah.
The cars, just through sheer volume of production, would have to make them more attainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And these guys would be a lot more tech savvy than, I guess, our generation.
They're going to be pretty disappointed in the performance of the 911 then, because of the what do you mean my Bluetooth doesn't connect?
Yeah, well, I was going to say in the way that the cars are repaired and maintained.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So they're going to be a lot more tech savvy. There's going to be a lot more computers out there and a lot more programs to sort these cars out when they
the OBD plug-in thing compared to the cars that you one that got away and what I've got parked behind me here.
Yeah. We've got 12-volt wires.
Yeah, I don't. I got 6.
You got 6, yeah. You're half of what I've got. So that's what I think. The guys in their 20s and, for the younger people wanting to own these cars, there's going to be something for them.
Sure.
Porsche is always going to be around. They may not aspire to have a 911. They may want a Taycan or a whatever electric thing is going on.
And that's why we wash children's mouths out with soap.
It's a fact of life. Those electric cars will be here, and there's no doubt there will be an electric 911.
Look, you may or may not have had the opportunity, but I did a Taycan review recently.
Yeah, I saw that, yes.
Yeah, look, the performance discussion is done.
Yeah.
It's finished. There's no point talking about it anymore. If you're doing 2 and a bit seconds, 0 to 100 times, there's nothing more you can expect out of a car. Let's face it, right?
It's crazy quick.
Yeah, so the reality of it is we need to come back to why are we driving? Why are we enthusiasts? Forget performance. Forget it. It's the race is run. It's won. We can't physically. You can buy a Taycan Turbo S, and it speeds from 0 to 100 kilometres an hour faster than an F1 car. Isn't that enough? I don't know what more you need. And that's if 0 to 100 is your goal. Let's say 80 to 130, the actual real measurable, feeling, driving on the road type metric, 1.9 seconds.
Yeah, that's crazy quick. I don't need that type of speed.
It's done, so let's talk about engagement. Let's talk about where we can use it. And that means a stick shift, it means 3 pedals, or it means a PDK that you're doing this to on the steering wheel, whatever it is for you. I don't judge, I don't mind. If you think that's some 1200s, go, look, I'm going to be honest here, I drive that thing behind me to my limit.
Yeah.
The thing is built 60 years ago and it's probably still better than me. So, really, what am I going out buying a 100 horsepower car for? In the scheme of in driver engagement, I'm not necessarily sure that more modern, better, newer, I don't know if that's the answer anymore after driving the Taycan.
I think there'll be a divide. There'll be the newer generations will be, you'll have two sort of buyers, one that wants the older analog feel.
Yeah.
And then the other group that wants technology.
But it's definitely a transition period that we're in at the moment.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, I've no doubt you've had the opportunity to drive a 992, right, at some point.
I haven't driven a 992, but I'm sure I've driven one.
Well, or a 991.2 or a
991.
Yeah, okay. A PDK car, they're pretty special, aren't they? I don't know what more you need on the road than what that car has to offer in performance, by just about every metric you can measure a driving experience from. So right now, these cars are in the middle. It's not that behind me. It's not the electric car. These cars at the moment are right in the middle, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how these cars age, how they're appreciated. Like, to give you some perspective, I employ a lot of young people in my grown-ups job, right? Most of them are born after 2000, which right now I know horrifies you because you got genes you bought prior to 2000, right? In your wardrobe, like I do, right? So so whenever they get in, even my daily, the metrics by which they measure cars against compared to what you and I measured against growing up, they're so much different. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The mentality of the buyer will be quite different to what we expect or what we thought we'd, be. The new generation might just want complete technology. Who knows?
Yeah, you might be right. And look, I had one of the young staff mention to me the other day when they were little, their parents owned a Prius.
Okay.
Right. Just to give you some perspective, like this area I've brought this up, right? I can't remember the last time I saw a Prius on the road. Yeah, so even hybrid technology seems to be dropping by the wayside. It was only 4 or 5, or I thought it was 4 or 5 years ago. I saw Camry hybrids everywhere. They're all taxis and all this sort of stuff, right? But now with the onset of Uber and all that sort of thing, taxis just don't really exist that much.
Yep.
don't even see Camry hybrids that much anymore.
Yeah, no, the technology is shifting quite quickly, and I mean Porsche's right on top of it. They do have, I'm sure you've heard about the synthetic fuel that they're producing?
Yeah, sure.
So obviously the classic market in 10, 20, 30, 50 years' time, I don't know how long.
There will be fuel for them. There's no doubt whatsoever, right? And I think the market will reflect the cost of it. Like, you said before that was a 77 MFI car?
75.
75 MFI car, right? If you're to own a 75 MFI car today, you've paid X dollars for it.
Yeah.
That X has a lot of X's after it.
Yeah.
It's not your daily drive. If it costs you $60 to take it out on a Sunday, you just pay the $60, won't you?
Yeah.
Instead of the 25 that it currently costs you to fill it, or whatever the number is, So I think those synthetic fuels will reflect the price or the cost of using old cars, and they'll adjust the pricing accordingly.
Yeah, no, I think Porsche's quite smart. They do understand where they've come from. And, having a classic car in 20, 30 years' time when, I guess, I don't know, normal fuel probably won't be available, sure, they're on top of it. I'm sure the fuel's going to cost quite a bit, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for people that have classic cars.
Look, I don't know about you, but in 30 years' time, I'm going to have no problem getting into my car. It's the getting out bit I'm going to have problems with. Because how low it is, So.
The problem is I don't know what car I'm going to own.
I reckon I'll own one of those vintage Macans.
Vintage.
In 30 years' time.
Yeah. If it still works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't help but feel like they should have, instead of introducing the Tyco, they should have just brought out an electric Macan and they would have sold a zillion of them.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're doing that right now.
Yeah, I've no doubt whatsoever. But I didn't see the necessity for the sedan-style GT car,
Yeah, well, maybe.
Let's look. I saw one the other day parked next to a Kia GT Stinger.
Yep, looks similar.
Didn't look much different, except for the $250,000 price point difference.
Yeah, well, obviously Kia's done their homework and probably had their spies. And
yeah, Mission E, let's do that. Yeah, no, we're not putting the electric motor in.
Yeah, it's a good brand. It's a good brand to be associated with, and I quite enjoy buying and selling them, and that's what I really like doing.
Yeah, good one. So it's been a great chat this evening / today, James. I really appreciate you taking the time to basically have a Porsche crap on with me about anything and everything. I think I've quite enjoyed it. I hope you have as well. And I hope the listeners have enjoyed what we've just done general talk on. I've had some great feedback from listeners saying they listen to it in the car because it keeps them awake because it's almost close to putting them to sleep.
No, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to talk Porsche anytime.
Yeah, good one. Now, I know it's getting late there. What are we at, 9:30 in the evening?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let me know if you need me to come and tuck you in. Thanks very much for your time this evening. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Porsche Talk. If you've got any input whatsoever, like I mentioned at the start of the podcast, please think about emailing me, messaging me, any social media platform. Marc and Cars is where you go to. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy Porsche.